Welcome, beloved Sangha, to our question and answer period with our Venerable Drupon Rinchen Dorje Rinpoche. We are going to jump right into questions since we have quite a few of them. So here we go. Number 1. In this morning's teaching, Garchen Rinpoche mentioned several times the 4 levels of joy. In the context of explaining how the 4 kayas, 4 empowerments, 4 yogas, 4 classes of tantra, and 4 levels of attachment are all related to each other, can you please elaborate further on the 4 levels of joy and bliss and their meaning?
Gawashi, Gawashi, Sano, Tazita, Terwa, Zenatu, Domo, the Yamashi, the Gawashi, Sajia, the Jitanchina, Kono Komiaka, Zen Banza, the Shudis, and Banzana, the Guam, take on Gawashi, say Shakarwa. Or the Gawashi said the Karis, and that's Jitanchina, that's the Shochi Shunda, the Gawashi, Evan Session, these Shochi on the Tatambo Gawas, Shochung, the cheers on the Gadi, the Rinchoka, and Jigoa, what to do. Gawashi, the Evan Session, that the Monas, that Jitanchina. That's a may unbar the chance and marshuna. The Jiwazan for Levic on the Gawat, Shakari, Dimbala, Tatati Gawa, Gadi, Choka, what is shouted. Nikal, the Gadi Gava, Chokarva, Gadi, Hajibigarantamala. Choka to shout it, they were duty. Or then Hajibigavas, what to do the shot. What is Jetons in the Koran Soti, that they wake in Yam Jones, the Kuchijum. What is Shashos Helta? Next one.
So the 4 levels of joy or of bliss, they are related to the practice of Tummo. So when we practice Tummo, then the experience of 4 levels of joy arises. So these are increasing levels of joy or bliss. And in relation to the blazing and then the melting and dripping of the white drops. So there are 4 levels of joy because there are 4 intensities of joy that arise. Like the magnitude of bliss becomes increasingly stronger. So first, there's the first level is called joy, and the second level that is stronger than the first level. So the experience of bliss is stronger. That is called beyond joy, and then the third level is called supreme joy, and the fourth level is called co-emergent or innate joy. So when we practice Tummo, we visualize the blazing fire that melts the bodhicitta drop, first starting from the crown. So at the crown, we first experience joy, and then as it descends down, and when it reaches the throat, we experience beyond joy, and then when it reaches the heart, we experience supreme joy, and at the navel, co-emergent or innate joy. So it is just an experience of bliss, an increasing experience of bliss. And also when one practices Mahamudra, so not only in the practice of Tummo, but also when one practices Mahamudra, then the karmic winds enter into the central channel, and as a result, the 4 levels of joy also arise. So basically, when one's practice is stable, then the 4 levels of joy arise.
Thank you. Next question. How is one to understand refuge in the context of one's mind? I am then taking refuge in aspects of myself, but I don't then understand the necessity or logic behind it. What is the result of taking refuge in that way?
지탄 점로의 아주대요로 점로 친한 상송이 완세게です. 시 점로의 말라리 빈 고스티나 가르잖아. 남아이다 상제초당 근데 섬치 점로 인생 투목 점로를 치셔. 단 투목 티반 투목 점로. 어때네 남아이다 간로 섬낭 점로 인생 상악 잡스로야. 어떤 자타는 되려 좀 섬상의 점로 있어. 我的那他东他也没，这种统计见不容易。但是你们俩起的那这趟让先，所以我在唐伯在起加深着，起加深着的些，在马进在先那路的些呢，这让先加不着呀了吧？因那所以我在让上加不去了吧？开始是那让先的没给往说着的呢，那加不去嘛呢？让先三把三步的呀，给外说着呢，那让先不加不着了，三把三样的一万自己着了。 랑생 잠바 상보 냠네 대소 내디나 고 디키자모 그래 하신 데 메게다 제 차당 모som 티나시네 대소소 lokrenam도 디 잡토고 소소 샘트 다토시 단랑 샘 다시 와서 소 샘키 단 샘키 냠네 티가 내디니 고 잠도라래 예 샘키 잠로 와 저당 가서 니도 빼셔야지 그래 같이 텐 정도 당보 라마 빼셔야 돼 와르 라마데 당보 라마데 와르 라마 빼셔야 돼 타마라마 랑셈텐스다. 어때? 랑셈테. 소데. 라마다 치로 빼자다 가르고나 랑셈테 소소소다. 디스코 마토나 디팽 말이다. 디 텐스레 세zam스다. 제고 라메터 송송 잠스데. 마토제이데. 소어데 랑셈테. 주톰나다 랑자토 요리. 상제 좀 된데 계속 오라. 로베 동아차 시메 이기 도파현 보면스. 我的上节就没得去，如果东都哪怕洗头嘛的是，我越多把他们先让报道就嘛，说家伙的是，我这样呢，俺就悄悄去摸去那电脑背后，这种的话，电脑俺也这样电的，那时候他让这块一些经常写过的，种多，我这样一说，让他做的，他悄悄去摸那路多，那他也会不听见那个呢，这里讲什么路，这嘛用呢，说的别抢着，咱们抢那些抢救，先这说讲了。 칸톱톱 주. 매게 대해서 도야서 강산 봐마. 용 칸톱도 당서 게벨함 치토비아랑 셈. 어다 셈. 차디 상제 좀 되는데 랑 셈네 용선 되는 상제 된바 이종하다 되래. 그러나 상제 된바 소도 셈도 야래. 말라리 페게 담주는 다반 되방 에메 랑셈 첨본 되는 되와이 정도. 어다 랑셈 첨본 되선 되도 아주 많이 생각하지 샘 남포 제랑니 랑파가 되면 제 마가 남조샤 되레 작당 모섬지 디기잘 쟁에 몸보다 랑가나 요 파르초지 보 말해 어때인도 센데라 노효 쳔마라 노효래 어때인도 다다다 아주 가르잖아 디 랑샘트 야보소 냠내 강샤 잡선로 톱디나 잡선로 되래도 냠내 강샤 팅오 다 많이디 제 칸토도 신는데 잡로 되래 어때 지디나 소소소라 대바 용거리 셴발라 팬토 그래 어때인도 다텐도 나는 사례스
In one song, I say the refuge has an outer, inner, and secret aspect. And in one of his songs, Milarepa sang about that, and he said the outer refuge is the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. So that is the refuge common to all the vehicles. Then he said that the inner refuge is the Lama, Yidam, and Dakini. And that's the refuge of the secret mantra. And the secret refuge are the channels, winds, and drops. And the ultimate refuge are the mind emptiness and their indivisibility. And so if you're able to practice, then this becomes your refuge. But it always begins first with the outer refuge. We take refuge in the Buddha, Dharma, and the Sangha first. But then later, when you have realized the nature of the mind, somewhat at least, then you really give yourself refuge. And really, ultimately, you have to protect yourself. Because if you allow your mind to become controlled by negativity, negative action, then you cannot be protected. You will not be protected. There will be no refuge. So actual protection, therefore, comes from a good heart, a positive mind, and virtuous action, and abiding in practicing pointedly. Otherwise, if you become controlled by negativity, by attachment, anger, and ignorance, then you will stray onto a corrupted path. So it is said, if you wish to look, when looking somewhere, you should look at your own mind. And first, we do take in the outer refuge, but ultimately we end up at our mind. In one scripture it says, in the beginning the guru is the outer guru. Then in the middle the guru are the scriptures. And in the end the guru is your own mind. So even though you have the outer guru and you have the guru of the scriptures, if you don't really change then kind of the shape of your mind in some way, then all of that is useless. Then you might think that, oh, that's what the guru said to me, that's what it says in the text, but nothing really changes in your mind if you don't practice it. But if you're able to transform your own mind, then you are really protecting yourself. Also, the Buddha Shakyamuni himself had said, I cannot clear away the suffering of all sentient beings in the 6 realms with my hand. I cannot just wipe it away, nor can I transfer my realization upon them. But you have to attain it yourself. And also in the Mahamudra teachings, Tilopa said to Naropa that the mind that is to be shown, so that was in response to show me the nature of intrinsic awareness or self-knowing awareness. And Tilopa said that is something that cannot be shown. So Rigpa cannot be shown, or Mahamudra cannot be shown. But you have to realize its nature yourself, and then you become your own refuge. That's ideally, or at least you try to cultivate love and compassion as much as you can, and as much as you can let go of negative thoughts, negative actions, and try to just enter a path of virtue as much as you can. The Buddha also said, completely tame your own mind. This is the Buddha's teaching. So that is the Buddha's teaching. It is to purify your own mind. That's why that is also your refuge. And Milarepa, when challenged on his understanding on the Vinaya, and so the Vinaya, literally the term Vinaya means taming. So he said that I have not studied the so-called Vinaya or that taming, but the real taming or the real Vinaya is to tame the coarseness of the mind, to smooth out the coarseness of the mind. Because otherwise we might not follow the teachings, but still there are certain people that we don't like, and then we show them, we let that be known with our expressions, and then we develop many thoughts of attachment and anger and so on. And at the end, we remain unprotected because we encounter negative circumstances. And so we can see ultimately there's nothing other than ourselves that can really protect us. And so if we lose ourselves in this way, then that we are the ones who will be at loss in this life and also in future lives. So therefore, when you take refuge, taking refuge in your own mind means to sustain an ongoing state of practice, of looking at the nature of your mind without any distraction. If you do that, then you are really protecting yourself. And so then as a result of that, you will experience happiness for yourself, and you will also bring benefit to others.
Thank you. Drupon, I am a tantric practitioner, and much of the afflicted emotions have been resolved after 2 years of my awakening, even addictive patterns. So blissful happiness is increasing and steady. What is bothering me is the intense energies in the body, weight gain and heaviness, and partly pain in the hips. I'd like to know if through more meditative practices, the residues of those blockages are being dissolved into emptiness, or if one has to deal with those issues even when the self-grasping of the body has been released.
Ina jidang da zandu te chor go shona ta chenang su de na te dik nyamna te la zai chin chungguo da ten cham nan de shona nga zu namba ina wa zai te ru gang chungguo ko na mixin de chungguo cham ti zai pian to er se ten ru zong he se wa wa ten du tene wa ta zo te nga zu ta ti zandu chor na ma zho na tere zo de nga zu ta sem gang nyamna che ya te ke che shu zi ge sem gang zo nyamna ne 지난 대화다 해서 대화대 제 지나야 보러 대화대 대통령 이야미바 냠신 내고 쇼르면 안 대화 차서 나가서 다제 남아 있는 상지 도비아 향제 대화 차나 저거 말이스 아 대세 메토 좀 냠좀 요로 어디 좀 보태 냠 차서 저거 맞아 그러다 냠다 파타나 지단 냠네 집이 다 스레스이나 데 냠네 파르치사도데 냠다 파타나 상지 그랬으면 냠다서 차서는데 대발단 동감도 거론도야 this came by the Songkam Ziva, Songkam Marese, Tomba, Songin come to Kondo, I think Lapchoveris. What do that? The Indian man does a Yamnak Chona on the one this year, 어디 다 주로 좀 냠나시 그러면 이제 멘티 대화 이제 대랑 지바치 되게 냠나시 제가 안지 가서 녹소 대시라면도 쓰러. 我听对这，但我做听对那个，这当俺那说起当的，我学音是的呢，经常说听人们在看对那，要不是呢，学习嘛，从是吧？对的呗。
Yeah, so Drupon said, I don't really know much about this kind of path of practice. So since our concept of awakening is different, but if it has something to do, if this practice has something to do with the clearing of the knots inside the channels, then in the Buddhist tradition, for example, there are certain yogic exercises that we do that can help with that. But I'm not sure about that tradition that you're practicing. There seems to be some differences. But generally, we say that in order to free, kind of open the knots, release the knots of the channels, mainly the most important factor is the practice of the mind and not the physical practice. And so when we practice with bliss, then bliss does not become the main focus of the practice, but we need to practice the union of bliss and emptiness. If one becomes attached to the bliss, then according to the Buddhist path, one does not attain awakening. So in the Buddhist path, we speak about 3 kinds of meditative experiences. Those are bliss, clarity, and non-conceptuality. And if one leaves it with these experiences, one just dwells in these experiences, it is not enough. And so when one has cleared away, when one has purified even those experiences, that is a sign of real practice, and that leads to awakening or enlightenment. But when one clings to these experiences and kind of dwells in those experiences, then actually that leads to birth. If it is bliss, it leads to birth in the desire realm. And if it is clarity, it leads to birth in the form realms. And if it is non-conceptuality or emptiness, it leads to birth in the formless realms. So in the Buddhist practice, we do utilize bliss as support, but it is not about the bliss. And so then we transcend the bliss. So in our tradition, we don't actually kind of dwell in that. But Drupon says that I'm not sure how it is with any other practice in a different tradition.
Thank you, Drupon. Drupon, what is the difference between visualizing just the form of the guru versus the form of the deity?
다다디 담보 장소 샘지기로와 예담 공래 예담라 카레 나다 예담 시오고 드르랑 클루시 예담 공구로와 라마데 티니까 동 지원동 다 카라 공난데 쇼테 공그리 어디 차자 신봉하냐나지 되는 거 완치 어떤 식이래 제단진다 예담데 구미아데 조어트랑케 르르 예담 공그리 어디 라마데 제 소소왕제 진합슈사 조르반데스 대안동 dü지 남간동 대양 양나랑 지워종동 마스테 공그리 단 예디르는 니가 공난데 그래서 다 잠로서 존난 로드 차과 예파 공 거바치 네 있어 그래 요래 어tendu 디디도 지워종 공스 어tendu 요르와 소 어떤 라마들 다 소소게 디 no 디디나 지워종 로나 차과 예파를 공스 거바치 어테 좀 어tendu 지도 라마들 소르한데 시대에 또 예담이나라 카리나 소소로한데 디소로와 담나랑게 다 자벨라마도 주벨라마도 진람지원의 차자 신부도 관여르지 해서 어떻지네 어떤들이 어디 예담들 랑게 르트 타마마쇼와 지네 냠네 랑 르리 다 나시 군데 초탐비데 他的蒙上去，写讲他的蒙上去听住怎么当，他光过去了，听住，听你不得写把了啥的怎么，听那么的，那么的做完的是，一旦的做的，他说让驴的我，那么让驴了，那么就讲说什么嘞？这样你看着我提供给他们。常常在一旦往这对重新做这件这个，提供呢，一旦的那么一旦看到上面过的也是那我那今天许多，往面这个忙些是那么的，但是就我种着我，让他别讲那面那就那些，咱对进他们看着我，可以就我种着我工的说完的，这那面那就弄个吧。我种但我种这个工那么过些些就有的，这怎么在当呢？在当在有的，可是呢，这个天呢，他在让可以就我种工学在我的去。我天天对那看，对那看着我们天天，龙口天天那你看工个的，对那看，对那看着我这那看工，对龙口那你看着我们说是龙口那把那是看见做工，提你看了他工学的，那么看见做噻，那把那是全部就有啥？我太阳的，我你对我讲我做东西，那么看见做这个送到我的。所有人对这全部结果比个现在送多的，所有人个现在所有动作呢。我在那边那在看见做结果这中央你妈人好是这种送多的。现在他全部说的啥啦？今年生着全部结有啥的？但那么看见说谁？现在他全部这些，马的他对着我些，他提出个他是那么他工作能看到呢？他主看到就在那么提出个。我这就那么上面过的，这就公规的。我这样他的就可以那把让就我弄这就公规上。我问你可以那这让是就可多人想着让就我弄。可以就可以讲我们家的，其他我东就嘛是。我但我问你可以那让是的一面，那么怎么是工作下嘛的？我真的是工学的。那么是，一旦第四的有啥？一旦这做说旅体啊，他们弄完嘛说话这个么样？那么说前他们就跟着我们样多点。一旦给前他们就就会让他这样呢，他做他那么是超几年中，他说有的话接触下来。
So the Fivefold Path of Mahamudra, it begins with first cultivating bodhicitta, and then next we visualize the Yidam deity. That is any Yidam deity really, your own Yidam deity, and so you visualize your own body as the Yidam deity. And then the third practice in the Fivefold Path is the Guru practice, and the Guru here is visualized either at the heart, and some also visualize the Guru at the crown. And then the fourth is Mahamudra, and the fifth is dedication. But so now the difference here is that we visualize our own body in the form of the Yidam, and the Guru is at the heart or at the crown, and more our kind of place of supplication, and from whom we receive the blessings. And we ourselves appear as the Yidam deity. And then in different occasions, we visualize the Guru at different places. So we visualize the Guru, for example, when we sleep, when we lie down, we visualize the Guru often at the heart. And when we meditate, when we sit, then we visualize the Guru in the space in front of us, but at the crown level, so elevated. And then when we walk around, then we can visualize the Guru at our right shoulder. So there's different places to visualize the Guru. And when you visualize the Guru, you can also visualize the Guru being surrounded by all the lineage Gurus, and then you supplicate to them, and you receive their blessings. You pray that you may quickly realize the nature of Mahamudra. And the reason why we visualize the Yidam deity ourselves as the Yidam deity is so that we let go of the ordinary perception of our body. And so then also we begin to see the entire universe and all beings, all samsara and nirvana, as gods and goddesses, and the immeasurable palace, the mandala of the deity. So here's the difference. So the Yidam deity is your own body. It's normally we don't visualize ourselves, our own body, in the form of the guru. The guru is more someone from whom we supplicate in order to receive blessings and in order to realize Mahamudra and so on. And of course, the Yidam deity also grants blessings. And also sometimes we do visualize the Yidam deity in front of us. For example, when we visualize the refuge tree, like the field of accumulation, then there is the Yidam surrounded by all the lineage gurus and all the other Yidams and the Dakinis and so forth. But generally speaking, we visualize the guru at the crown and we supplicate the guru. And in the context of the guru yoga practice, we visualize the guru again in front in space, but at the level of our crown, so slightly elevated, and then we supplicate to the guru. And in the Jigong Kagyu tradition, we practice the 4 kayas of the guru. First, the Nirmana kaya. Here we visualize the Nirmana kaya guru as he is at our crown, which is in space at the crown level, so elevated in space. And then the Sambhoga kaya. So then the Sambhoga kaya. So you visualize yourself as the Yidam deity, and in this tradition, in the Fivefold Path, that would be Chakrasamvara. And then at your heart, you visualize Vairocana, but he should be visualized as immeasurably vast, very large, but still inside your heart. And then also in his heart are the various, so he's surrounded by the various lineage gurus. So that is the Sambhoga kaya. And then the Dharma kaya in this context, in terms of where you visualize, is similar to the Nirmana kaya. Oh, and for the Nirmana kaya, you visualize Buddha Shakyamuni. And then the Dharma kaya, you again visualize at a crown level in front of you in space, the Buddha Vajradhara to represent the Dharma kaya. And then the fourth is the Svabhavika kaya, or the essence kaya. And there is no visualization here. Here you just meditate, resting in the nature of the mind. So the main point, to summarize, of the Yidam practice is to overcome the ordinary perception of your body. So you visualize your own body in the form of the Yidam, and the Guru is visualized as a place of supplication, where we supplicate to bestow his blessings so that we may gain realization of Mahamudra quickly. And of course, again, the Yidam also, of course, bestows these kind of blessings.
Thank you, Drupon. Drupon La, if sometimes we don't follow the Guru's personal instructions due to our own defilements, do we break the Samaya? And if we do, how do we fix it?
Mare. Really. 잠재 냥 손나다 저런데 잠재 냥 쉬지 냥 효리 섬도 다 라메송 켜라 마좀네 디스다 가서 용기로 왔던데 냥들 장아 저런 잠재 망보 요즈다 효로 어떻게 세자야 조고는 저런 야파치는 효리 조 야파치고 효리스 가서 배자 가셔나 저요래 배자的뭐지 다니까 다다디 다니마를 라고나 잠노야 보다로 그러나 게데 카시디 야보잠도 당로와 데 공다 소니에 가는 예산장 사다디 스냅사도 잠모디 스타트 다 개바치단 제시랑 친구반다 아치 안디 티니 모제 디관지 있다는다 이자디 사고 이자데 데 카시 자섬 나리라테 융타 니스tak세 산니스tak세 마뇽네 어서 사고 데 도르생 꿈데나치 데 다도 없이 이게 약화 상대를 손는데 refuge dobshite da dorje samba tenji dobro tene tatati tenji gyando ya nyembo kunti ju be dobro de dikba ten jo semji ya de sunching be dobro da chinchi meji zang go shore de meji zang ba de da dombe dobs do khashi wa da ten ro sha ti xie chang de na chin de ya dikba ma da jo ma khasan dikba de an samsa de ru sha sha de nyima re so ya ya di dikba to dob na che de ro sho sa re 샤테코 들이 약화지 난 니가 주소를 말이 남상남상 약화지도 그 네바시 라면 받쳐하다 배창的시간 단 드레인的생각도 니라스 인공的있어 쿠지나 선이 뒤다가 그거니 이제 우리 다들 배창의 용모를 내가 뒤서 디판나라 다 들이 약화지 디가니 마코디 삽자신 티페 차는 거야 디파이나 대 총도 지 용도야 들이 차지로 와 산이가 말이야. 야바티나 서와 tantric 미자 소소 전제 랩스 그래. 아다고 가르치는 시다 트레인트 시장 트레인트 시한테 대치라도 야토야. 그래 가버렸어. 뭐
So if we don't follow the guru's personal instructions, then Drupon says I do think that we kind of break our Samaya a little bit. But of course, there are many Samayas in the secret mantra. But there is maybe a slight breach of Samaya if we do that. And so in order to restore this breach, we have to confess and purify. There's one text that tells the story about this person who each and every day they reflect on their day. So it's basically an instruction. And so that person each and every day in the evening before they go to sleep, they should reflect on their day. What have I done? Have I done good things, bad things, good thoughts, negative thoughts? And then if you find that you practiced a lot of virtue today, you should rejoice in that and dedicate it. And if you find that you engaged in negativity today, and then you should recite the 100-syllable Vajrasattva mantra at least 21 times, and at the same time also visualize Vajrasattva. And the way, according to the Vajrasattva practice, the way we purify our negativities is through the 4 powers of confession. And so here in this case, Vajrasattva would be the power of the support. The 100-syllable mantra is the power of the antidote. And then regretting all negativity is the power of remorse. And then thinking that I am not again going to repeat this negativity, this negative action, that is the power of commitment. And if any of these four powers is lacking, then it is said the negativity will not become completely purified. And also it's important to confess negativities as they arise and not let some days slip by and skipping a few days of confession. Because the more we just kind of push them aside and neglect those negativities, the more they grow and become stronger and stronger actually. So that is why it's very important. It's very important to actually, ideally, immediately confess whatever negativity has arisen every day, every hour, and so on. And then we can kind of hold them at bay and also purify them so they don't grow stronger. And so, for example, it really makes sense in a way because, for example, if you're sleeping a lot, like you've slept a lot during the day, and that's kind of also a negativity. And then if you think that, oh, it's okay, it's not a big deal, what's the big deal of sleeping a little bit here and there, then you're going to do it again tomorrow. You sleep again tomorrow because it's not a big deal. And in this way, the negativity increases. But on the other hand, if you think that this is not good, I shouldn't sleep too much during the day, and you then confess through the 4 powers, then you are more likely to be more mindful on the next day, and then you probably will not sleep the next day because you have confessed and you have recognized the fault in that. So if you just think that anything is okay, it's all not such a big deal, if you're quite loose, then it's maybe more difficult to really purify or lay aside the negativity. So the significance of confessing also is because we are mindful. It restores our mindfulness, our heedfulness. Some people think that they're a little intimidated maybe by all the different vows that we are taking in the Buddhist path, and they say that there's all these samayas and you can't keep all of these samayas, but so it's better maybe not even to take all of these vows and those samayas. But that's also not quite right, because Jigten Songkhan actually said it's better to lose or to break your vow and restore it than to have never received the vow. And that is because even if you break the vow a little bit, there is mindfulness because you had the vow. And so because you broke a vow, you are mindful of it, and so you regret and you confess it. But if you never take a vow, then you easily become very unmindful and you just think that you can do whatever you want, and then it's more likely that you end up being a quite sinful person.
Thank you, Drupon. Drupon, how can I recognize that all mother sentient beings are Buddhas? How can I practice this properly?
So nyamle ya sona de mada akna mat panga sona mada ngado tengda chagda mo so hyun zigira ya cha do si chagda mo so de simcha sanje thong ya kale khapore ti chagda mo so pa tha son de simcha sanje thong.
So first we should begin of recognizing all sentient beings as our mothers by cultivating love and compassion. And then later, we build on that by practicing the Vajrayana, and as a result of that, we begin to see them as gods and goddesses. And then finally, as our practice really reaches fruition, we begin to see all beings as Buddhas. Because in reality, there are no real sentient beings. Their true natural state is Buddha. Therefore, Milarepa also said that I do not see sentient beings, I only see Buddhas. So Milarepa saw everyone as Buddha. And so that happens when your practice reaches a higher level, then all ordinary or impure perceptions will cease to be. And of course, for us now, nowadays we all have many thoughts of attachment and anger and so on. So as long as we have all these afflictions in our mind, it will be very difficult to see sentient beings as Buddhas. So first we have to purify our afflictions, and then as a result, we will see all beings as Buddhas.
Thank you, Drupon. My question to dear Rinpoche is about the generation stage of Tantra. How can we manage the pure view of secret Tantra with compassion to sentient beings in samsara?
Really? 소소 다고 남자 샤손 들고 마다좀 통 말이야. 근데 도도 금도야 요 말때 잠니 그 랑지 티는 되디요. 저니데. 제는 안 되도 그래. 그래도 곰통은 되디요.
So there's really no contradiction between those at all. So in the Fivefold Path of Mahamudra, we begin with bodhicitta. And even though it's kind of just the first step, actually it is included in all the other steps as well. So when we then practice the Yidam Deity, from that arises a pure perception of seeing all beings as gods and goddesses. And within that, actually, bodhicitta is also complete. It is just that in this state, things are naturally pure, and there's no need to deliberately meditate upon love and compassion at that time. So now, of course, we develop love and compassion. We think about sentient beings, and then we give rise to compassion. But when you yourself appear as the Yidam Deity, and everything appears as a vast field of purity and all beings as gods and goddesses, then there is no separate need to meditate on love and compassion. Actually, a natural feeling of love is present when you see things in this pure way. So that is if you are practicing, if you know how to practice, if you practice properly, then bodhicitta naturally is part of the Yidam practice.
Thank you, Drupon. Drupanla, how does Tibetan Buddhism view the act of self-defense? Is there ever a situation where killing another sentient being does not create negative karma?
Really. Da semno. Rebe da ro che. That's a this. Jatanta this guy cover something. The Jitan Karis and Jitan that Gonchit to know. Cause Gana Asante says to Zo Hao, Gana Garwo Chivin do some devad. The Bachi but some again, dikpa sama yande ganna sante la kakwa ka na wa yana se dikpa sama yin ga shore geba sama ko chu ko na nero kan tu cha de ore smate sanje no za so ya marwa nero kan ta cha de de ne te 당에 그 잠나 디바 멜레제 제가 깔에 가고 이제 레잠도 나편 말에 알아서 지단 직세서 어디 공제 시장에 그거로
So that's a little bit difficult, to not create, to kill a being and not create negative karma. So that's a little difficult, and that's because Jigten Somgen said in the Gongchik that what we call like virtue and non-virtue is actually what is non-virtuous is primordially or by nature inherently prohibited, and what is virtuous is inherently by its very nature permitted. And so it's that is to say that the Buddha did not create or invent some kind of rules, but he just shared that this is how things are, that's the nature of things. And because killing others is just by nature a negative act, and then probably will be difficult for one to get away without any negative karma when one kills someone. And it's not just my own opinion, it's also what Jigten Somgen says.
어제당 Jigten Somgen 디난 지당 아주 니도 대본닝제 침보조제 문화는 동시에 대본닝제 침보세. 닝비제 침보세 다제 티케 문화는 동시에 문화는 동시에 맞지. 그래서 고야 가선 문화는 동시 총방업자서 고소효를 시고 문화는 동시. 대 대본닝제 침보하고네 총반도 성화 창조선 바래. 어서서 이당 대본닝제 침보 고난야반로 그래. Samtidigt där men de kan jag ändå grej samne det temoning som på sig som var det man på han kanske inte titta men de det som kan vara men de kida det var så de och det kanske inte taco som bara så samde kan vara temoning som på ha går va 어때 하고 뒤다 대본인 계신 뭐 야고 손바도 손마 창조했은 바래 어르지는 꾸냐반로 그래 당아 카리나리 장고 문화도 대본인 계신 보시인도 그러니까 이다 대본인 게 소소래 라폴틱 야단 지금서 어떤 말해서 그래 대본인 계신 뭐 문화도 통소야 티토나라 코나 동안용래 쓰지 디조 어제릭 니바데 이나 코나 펜셈제 유라서 손바 소죠 될 때는 소소래 시코티 게데니 포트 야와디 시고래 좀
And also Jigten Somgen commented on one very popular Buddhist story. So that's the story where there was this kind of this captain. His name was Great Compassion, and then there was this evil doer. His name was short, like he was kind of short, Short Darkness. And so Short Darkness was had a plan to kill 500 merchants, and the captain Great Compassion, he knew that all of these 500 merchants are actually bodhisattvas, and to spare the Short Darkness from committing so much evil, he decided to kill him, and he knew that as a result of killing him, he will go to hell. But he thought that whatever happens to me doesn't matter, let it happen. He wanted to save those 500 merchants, those bodhisattvas, and also Short Darkness. So Short Darkness from like being born in hell for a long time. And so he killed him. And so some people say, when they comment on this story, they say that this Captain Great Compassion, he actually accumulated great merit, and only merit. But Jigten Somgen now refutes that and says, no, not only, because he did kill and he did experience the result of killing. He did experience the suffering, a result of having killed. taking the life of someone, but he also had an altruistic intention, and with that he accumulated a great deal of merit. So Jigten Sumgen's point is that it's important that we make a clear distinction, that we don't just like kind of mix it all up, but that we make a clear distinction between what is actually virtuous and what is non-virtuous.
Thank you, Drupon. Drupanla, in regards to practicing Yidam deity, how do I choose which deity to practice? And especially if I'm isolated and don't have any personal contact with a teacher or lama or any Sangha members to consult with?
Ota soso da jidang azu la be chang da sa durma dong jiren sen dong tan da ma mo yoro wa tinang da soso kare zai ko pa gum du zai soso na wan ro le kan gum ne ya sa de zame soso na wan da te gum pyang de res ti gum soso lu gum de nian ba za ta chi chan wa de soso da jidam zai da shi wan da jiren sen jian be yang da ma mo yoro wa de chuo jin na zai da zan ma ji dem jo dong de ji dong dong zai yoro wa de So
that the scriptures mention many different deities. For example, there's Tara or Chenrezig, and the deity that you should choose for your own practice is the one that really you feel strongest. That you feel that really helps my practice. That you really feel a very strong attraction to. That's the one that you should choose. And then when you practice it, you should visualize yourself as the Yidam and then recite the mantra. For example, if you like peaceful deities, there is, for example, Chenrezig or Manjushri. Or if you like wrathful deities in the new tantric system, there is, for example, Chakasambhara or Hevajra. Or in the old tantric system, Vajrakilaya and so forth. But the main point is that you have to see which one you feel drawn to from your own side.
Thank you, Drupon. Drupon, today Garchen Rinpoche spoke about the gradual stages of the path. And he said that in the beginning, when the self is most important, we start with the pratimoksha vehicle, and then slowly as we develop our love, we enter the bodhisattva path, and then the vajrayana. When I examine my own mind, it is clear that most of the time the self is most important, and there is very little love and compassion. However, I still have had the karma to receive many teachings from Garchen Rinpoche, who I feel strong devotion towards, and who teaches the Vajrayana. Even though I do not have the qualities of a higher practitioner, is it appropriate for me to practice the Vajrayana, beginning with the Nundro practice and gradually progressing from there?
shipana ta shen no ba chi ya ban so tar tar do ban do res shen pen drop na den changchu shen do ban do res 我这人啊，他在唐唐讲他的什么，我那是人啊下了是吧？人啊了的，我天就真的，这当他像那前面就穷穷呢，这空这些当也top大过，但没从起过来，没什么说，但是人啊做辛苦吧，多嘛没空的有了吧？这空的对地往说了什么？看这上面在做地说呀，这样切当他起过来。 没那边一些没他穷，前边没说样同事，没穷是不讲一多样的，切先这个了。没那就是前边没说样的，前边没说什么，没不讲人中的他。我在前边是样钱，在前面是样空当然去过的。什么都，现在上个年们去呀，我把有的什么都，像那说的做，没算那有的的，说年们去进呢。 其他个人，个人不像那台北新闻呢，这那么早新闻的，那么些别多换我说的，这前他们就过来，说做吧，top， 真的，个个人年们去那啊，真的他的，上个年们去马我的世界有嘛，没如果没信呢，他先把可以他在村路那那些那些个嘛老工作没信呢，啊，说做，咱们当这去呢，虽然呢，我把是吧。 die Church das am da die Nama Theba da die Goncho vom Jobs die so jung und Samaya ba ridores ro Mahamudra bo top de ne ba karina Samaya chasang yores Samaya la yores
The essence of the Pratimoksha vow is to give up harming others. So if you practice that, you are practicing the essence of the Pratimoksha. And the essence of the Bodhisattva path is to accomplish the benefit of others as much as you can. And the essence of the Vajrayana path is a pure perception of seeing all as the deity. And so, of course, our love and compassion is not perfectly developed, but we have some love and compassion, and that love needs to be developed. So you need to try to increase your love. And everyone is in the same sort of situation because we all have habituated to seeing ourselves as most important since beginningless time. So we naturally are always controlled by that. It's very natural. But it's good to see that and then to increase our practice of love and compassion and our pure perception toward others. And Milarepa also said that this small fire of primordial wisdom must be increased through mindfulness. Mindfulness is just like you're fanning the fire. If you keep blowing or fanning the fire, it will grow stronger and stronger. And then love and compassion and mindfulness increase. And regarding being a kind of worthy Vajrayana practitioner, really everyone is a worthy Vajrayana practitioner if we practice it properly. And so you have said that you feel devotion to Rinchen Rinpoche, which is already excellent because Rinchen Rinpoche truly is a very, very precious Lama, a Lama who has really actualized all realization and really bestows great blessings on us if we supplicate him. So there's really no one who is not kind of a proper vessel, or let's say, and there's no one who is unworthy of a Vajrayana practice. Some beings might be unable, for example, an animal just wouldn't understand the Vajrayana practice, but as human beings, we actually have the intelligence to understand, and therefore we are all worthy practitioners. We all can practice the Vajrayana, especially if you have a wish to practice the Dharma, you're inspired by the Dharma, you have devotion to the Guru, you trust in the refuge of the three jewels. So anyone who has these criteria is a worthy Vajrayana practitioner. But basically anyone who has obtained the precious human body definitely has the potential to be a Vajrayana practitioner.
Samba Nimbare, do Napo Resha. Samba Karo Regidu, Samba Sambo Regido Karo Resha Sakuna. Tambo Manche do Napo Jimaridose. Did it Parpason things is a do Karo Mandus? Did it Parpason things that do Napo Meshason say what that new imagination?
In the past, already past Kadampa masters would practice is that, for example, there was one who demonstrated his in the development in practice by counting black and white pebbles. So he said that for each negative thought that arises in the mind, I will put a black pebble here, and for each positive thought, I will put a white pebble here. And in the beginning, he basically only had black pebbles and no white pebbles. But then he continued to practice, and eventually the white pebbles increased, and then there were more white pebbles, and in the end, there were no more black pebbles.
Thank you. Drupon, why is the prayer, the fivefold Mahamudra, called the Fivefold Path? I understand the three gurus, Bodhicitta, Yidam, Deity, and Root Guru. If I understand correctly, Mahamudra is considered as a guru? Question. If Mahamudra is considered this, how is it considered this? And then, what is the fifth guru?
Really? Chagza Chimbo Jidong Yetari human be. Carsanati Zunda Tangan, can do. Or Jidong thinking that is a huge of the Moni Kugana, the Lama Ransavier, Banamachikra. Or the Lama, that's all. You're not doing matters and don't get Jessiming or Niji goods, huge trope and do Maji Salambo. Jerembo Channel, Chancellor Salab. Jessiming or Niji go. Tino Yosama, don't let Tino Ngoni Gugan. Jessiming or Niji goes and Jigan on Jessiming or Niji go. Huge trope. So you know, Jayama, the same without huge trope and do Majis. Jerembo Channel, Jessiming or Niji, Jerembo Channel, Chancellor or that you're not doing, don't look at it. What is the same to the Lama Channel?
So the fifth one is dedication, and regarding how Mahamudra is the guru. So in the context of the four kayas, so there's Vabhavika kaya, we have said, is when you realize that your own mind is indivisible from the guru's mind. And also, Jigten Sumgön said in a 7-branch supplication that the essence of your own mind itself is the spontaneously existing like a field of accumulation. So there is no other kind of refuge field or field of accumulation that need to be visualized, and therefore, then the verse says, "I prostrate to the mind itself." So here he shows that the mind itself is the guru. And the fifth guru, or the fifth of the Fivefold Path, is dedication. So the fifth is dedication, and Sokarchen Rinpoche is still going to teach on that. We just didn't get there yet, but it's still coming. But the essence of dedication, being your own guru, is that when your own mind is completely pure, that your own mind completely pure is dedication naturally in itself.
lama se jin dua, this is how goes. Mazu hu lama se this symbol of the lama se nana mi ton da yin je men se me ze ra go well ji dang khari na mi na lama le wa.
So also to explain just the term lama, which is a word for guru in Tibetan. So like literally, so lama is a short, also could be seen short for lana meba in Tibetan, and lana meba means unsurpassed. So anything can be unsurpassed. It doesn't have to be a person.
Thank you. Drupon, the second verse of the Fivefold Mahamudra prayer says, Vajra holder, originator of samsara and nirvana. Why is the Vajra holder called the originator of samsara and nirvana?
So the Vajra holder refers to one's own mind. Also, Vajra holder is called the Vajradhara. So when you realize the essence of your own mind, then you have realized you become the Dharmakaya Vajradhara. And so Vajradhara, or the Vajra holder, which is your own mind, is the creator or originator, creator of samsara and nirvana. And Gajah Rinpoche did explain that today. He said that if you realize the nature of your mind, then you attain enlightenment, is as in that mind attains enlightenment. And if that mind does not realize its nature, then it will wander in samsara. So it is the mind that either goes into samsara or nirvana. Also in the Samantabhadra prayer, it says, when you recognize it, you are a Buddha. Not recognizing it, you are a sentient being wandering in samsara.
Thank you. Drupon, in the Mahamudra prayer, the third verse says that the Mahayana mind is manifested in the Sangha's form. Can you please explain more about this statement?
Samaya tikpa ta zai changjo samba no ko kharsana ya tikpa chi chung sen zo de ya be jigo chi chung chu ma chu ge chan ro zai ko go ra za jigo chi bo de tikchen de gendu tikpa chi bo gendu ko res na ma de mare tantric do我这印度元素经常会被个头上去，那个在这里来嘛的，然后那边那些的，过去挺多的，挺发现嘛。
So now we say that the guru is the embodiment of the enlightened body, speech, and mind, and also Tibetans often say that the guru is the embodiment of the three jewels. So the body is the Sangha, the speech is the Dharma, and the mind is the Buddha. So the Mahayana mind is manifested in the Sangha's form. So the Sangha here is the Guru's form, and the Guru embodies the Mahayana mind. And the Mahayana mind is a mind of bodhicitta. So therefore, an embodiment, someone who manifests the Mahayana mind in the form of the Sangha is a bodhisattva. So this should be understood to be the guru who manifests in the Sangha's form the mind of bodhicitta. And this term yana, or like a vehicle, is called that because the greater it goes, the more heavy enough the load. So here yana has more to do with more like a load that one is able to bear or carry. So it is like a heavy load, the greater the vehicle, or the greater the yana. And so the Mahayana mind is the mind of bodhicitta embodied by the Sangha. So it's this great vast mind embodied by the Guru.
Thank you. Drupon, this question is with respect to karmic propensities, and in the book, The Ganges Essential Instructions on Mahamudra, which is from 2009, from Rinchen Rinpoche, on page 21 it states, if people of inferior intelligence cannot abide in ultimate meaning, they should hold the vital point of wind energies and give up exerting themselves in awareness. So my question is on the point of giving up exerting in awareness. Is this referring to awareness of a self and not actually stopping awareness? But until one gains the experience of non-duality of self and other, we still must make an effort. Is this paragraph referring to generating karmic winds versus wisdom winds?
我的做的路面就是路面吧，那说吧。我这个路面吧是呀，路面就是它sem nicht mehr da，是说人家是讲 nicht mehr da，这弄子呀，他说他这个就了火山，这人家是说满眼把起过的，满眼把起人家起过的，总说的。我说我是弄子呢，他这这安不拉的呢，这个瞧着全部看看嘛，只用提纲人家去呢呀，多少要是吧？这可是多嘛说呢，他在路面吧，呢他弄村子现在我说你对这弄工的弄子呀，那就有点。弄旧火山说人家弄错哪那塔皮，就他弄怕就说来弄忙，其实来弄忙不有人，我说你弄马桶的，这弄错哪那塔皮，人家弄自己的，人家去过的是，身体和蛮硬把去过的是，我这老说啥的，就那火山这个蛮硬把去过的，就是哪错去过的是，哪那塔皮，我哪错呢？就火山哪错，火山都哪错他们过的是样的。So
those of inferior intelligence are called inferior intelligence because they cannot abide. So they don't abide in the ultimate meaning that they don't abide in the natural state of the mind. They are unable to continue on in practicing in the practice without distraction. So they should, so that hold the vital points of the wind energy. So they should practice the wind energies and then give up exerting themselves in awareness. So it might be very literal, but it really meaning is that they should bind awareness inside. If they cannot abide naturally, so then they should give up trying to abide like naturally if they can't. But first try to bind the mind inward, as in making an effort. So there is no natural abiding. Ideally, of course, we practice according to the Ganges Mahamudra instructions and just continue on in that state. But if we cannot do that, then we have to hold the wind energies. And so that refers to the various practices of the channels and winds. And we try to bring the mind inward. We need to make an effort in kind of binding the mind inward and not become distracted outwardly.
Thank you, Drupon. Rinpoche teaches that every being with compassion should be seen as a Tara or Chenrezig. Does it mean that Chenrezig is just compassion itself and not really limited to any form or individual being? One who in a moment brings compassion in a mind becomes Chenrezig because this inherent quality of one's mind manifests in this moment. Is this not referenced to any individual being quality of compassion the same as enlightened mind or Dharmakaya?
Yeah, so in Tibet, the people always say, when they refer to Chenrezig, they call him the great compassionate one or the compassionate protector. And so his essence is unbiased compassion for all sentient beings. And so therefore it is a state of mind. It is an enlightened state of mind that is Chenrezig. And when we visualize Chenrezig, again, the form of Chenrezig has a significance. In the recollection of purity, for example, we reflect that his white color is a sign of being unstained by the faults, by any faults, and his 4 hands are a sign of the 4 immeasurables and so forth.
Thank you. Drupon, His Eminence Garchen Rinpoche said that one should not display siddhis before others. Could you please explain the reason for that?
So it is said that one should not openly make an open display of one's clairvoyant powers or other miraculous powers. One should also not tell others about it, mainly because it harms one's own practice, and also it causes the blessings of the Vajrayana to decline. That's why Milarepa generally said that one's miraculous powers should be hidden. But there were some occasions where Milarepa actually showed some of his miraculous powers, especially to those who had wrong views and who lacked faith. For example, once there were some monks in a certain monastery who were very outwardly critical of Milarepa. And so then once Milarepa visited this monastery and he openly displayed a miracle, and then all the monks then stopped criticizing him and they started believing him. And so sometimes the lamas then would show such a miracle if it would cause others to stop engaging in negative action, if it would actually benefit others. But they would not just display miracles like for entertainment or like as a spectacle. They would not just like carelessly display all kinds of miraculous powers. Actually, Drupon remembered in Tibet, there was one of his lamas who also was a doctor. His name was Togme. And so once there was a person, and Drupon was actually there at that time, so there was this person who came to ask him about his father. His father was very ill, and he asked, will he be okay or will he die? And then the doctor lama said he will be okay. And so then they didn't give up hope. And then later, actually, the lama doctor said that actually he's going to die, but he didn't say that to the person, but he told me that. He's actually going to die, but it is the kind of the Samaya of a doctor lama to not tell others if they're going to die. So we're not allowed to tell others if they're going to die or something terrible will happen, because then for this whole time until they die, they experience too much suffering. And there's many other reasons as well. But there's this Samaya where they're not allowed to tell about anything terrible happening to others for a doctor now. And then with regard to showing one's miracles, that harms one's own practice in general and also kind of causes the Vajrayana blessings to decline. But of course, if one is a highly realized master like Milarepa, and there's a need for performing a miracle, then it's a little bit better.
Thank you, Drupon. Drupon, can you explain a little bit the difference between Mahamudra and Dzogchen?
So Mahamudra and Dzogchen are actually quite similar, but in the Dzogchen path, one is introduced to the nature of the mind in a more direct way, and then one practices what is called chekchu, which means direct cut or cutting through. So one directly engages in the practice of the nature of mind that one has been introduced to prior to one's practice already. In the Mahamudra practice, one is not initially introduced to the nature of the mind, but one begins with the practice of shamatha, calm abiding, and then eventually reaches vipassana, especially insight. And also in the Dzogchen practice, you have a practice called togal, which means crossing over or leaping over. And you don't have that in Mahamudra. We can say that Trekchö, or this direct cut, and Mahamudra are quite similar. And as for the togal, or the leaping over practice, so some say that in the Mahamudra, or kind of new tantric path, that actually corresponds to the practice of the illusory body, because it is said that if you practice togal, as a result you attain the rainbow body. And one of Milarepa's disciples, Rejungpa, his main practice was the practice of the illusory body, and it is said that Rejungpa also attained the rainbow body. Also, some scriptures say that the Mahamudra and Dzogchen are only different in terms of terminology, but not in their essence.
Thank you. Drupon, what are some signs that shamatha and vipassana meditation are unifying?
Really? Really?
So, shamatha is the single-pointed abiding mind. So the mind that abides calmly. And then vipassana is where we actually see the nature of the mind. And so a sign of having unified shamatha and vipassana is that the mind is at all times clear. So you're always in an ongoing state. You are in a state of clarity and abiding, as in you're not ever distracted by thoughts. So all ordinary thinking has stopped. Thoughts of attachment, anger, ignorance are absent, because you have realized that they do not inherently exist. And so that is a sign that shamatha and vipassana have really become unified. So again, it is when you continue on, so in this ongoing state at all times, your mind is clear, it clearly abides calmly without distraction, and having realized the lack of inherent existence of all arising thoughts, no ordinary thoughts of attachment, anger, or ignorance no longer arise.
Thank you. Drupon, I started to practice the sadhana of outer tantra action class in which I experienced a lot of joy and ease. From there, I advanced to my current sadhana with the same yidam that belongs to the highest level of Tantra. And in contrast to the previous practice, I feel a much stronger blessing, along with emotional spikes after meditation. My question is, should I stick to the highest level of practice that is primarily purifying the mind? And how can I know if I am on the right track?
Sem the Chanam Surat, Lana Mejuchion, the Chinan Rezamdo. Chizan Tosa Chena, Yansa Che Labur, and also Yamlan Tomboji, no Mar, this Farsidon, Mayoris. Becha, Tosa, Rentombo, in the Marsanos and Tombo. Then do the Naji Beda, say Yamlan Tomboji, teacher, Varchi, this station, then do the Yomosurat, this Huchion, I saw a restaurant. Or then I so the Yamlan Tichiun do that, Kaduna. Chamber the Shiki Maiwa, the Yomoji, Yomongo, she is on the Yomoko par and Yamlakan Rotobia. Or Tenrichi goes at it, some Yamlakan Rotobia. Yomoko wants short on the Yamlan Rotobman, Yomo Mashova, Yomongo, she and Yomo Rajima drop was trot on the Yamlanka Chadora. The lead so that Chenshia to go for it. Chenshia can't have to Yamlan Chidin.
So if you feel that the blessings are actually stronger with the highest Yoga Tantra practice, then you might want to continue with this practice. So regarding the afflictive emotions that also arise, spiking, it is actually said, there's this saying that says, like the higher you are, the more deep you will fall. For example, if you're in a high mountain, the higher you are, the more you can fall, basically. And so that also means that the higher the practice, the more likely are we to encounter obstacles. So for this reason, it's actually possible that when the higher the practice, sometimes the more afflicted the mind becomes. That's very likely to happen. But so the main thing to practice is mindfulness and non-distraction. The most important thing is to recognize the afflictive emotion as it arises, and then recognizing it, the afflictive emotion itself becomes practice. So you make the affliction your practice. And that's different than becoming controlled by the affliction, because when you become controlled by the affliction, then you are clearly not practicing. So you practice with the affliction when you recognize that the affliction, first you recognize the affliction, and then you recognize that the affliction does not actually exist inherently. Then the affliction itself becomes practice. And so the main point here is the most important thing is to be mindful as much as you can.
Thank you very much. Drupon, I strive to keep non-duality in the mind, but I do have difficulty dealing with people that have great mental afflictions that are non-practitioners. I also try to keep in mind bodhicitta for these people, but I find it very hard some days when they try to cause arguments or problems. And seeing the emptiness of the interaction is hard to maintain in my mind. and I'm trying to deal with this in a skillful manner. I wanted to know if you had any suggestions on how to handle people that may be difficult and cannot be avoided, like His Holiness the Dalai Lama has suggested.
Matiso Gale Cabo in Tajitan Soso Danyam Chinian in Besha the Magic Tuba Sojana. The camera you can reason less Maja. That's Chona Chamni, the Gonko Yamna Chachi took your Maricona, Kayo Marigam Nachinian is then Chamni the Gomra. To some the Kasi Majuna, Polia Maja, you can. Le Maja to control. Then Rohan, the Coramon State Park, they have Tigan. Tapaco controls the Uring Bolang Maris. Tigan, they control the zone. The Lekaji Jan, go on, no, that I'm Lekaji Jan in Bandochi. Lekaji Jan, Goshum Bandochi, Conan Tonsala. No, Lekaji Bazendo City Park, who Yamida. Bando Shande, who not control the Uring Bolang Maris, like what is it? Konashiva Chadogua. Or the China Chares. Source on the Beja Kakinat or the control symbol land, Mukaki control London, there's also source on the Stigan Soso Urulania Maris. Rosa Minea. Oh, and the time, draw Matomna. So that Palam, Jeton Gajan Jambo to Maja, then it's Chamni account of the room. The Testament that he cheated your mother. Your mother. Draw Macho, Kamara, Madina, Madina. Alright. Get a double part, say Zumbo, Malacona, say to Bolam, the part, Ninja room, say to Mala, the Maja. Say to Magic Bejan Shana. Magic say to Bolapi, the Zek Majan, the Koran say to put a new bike around, go Gini, Omara, the Dapa, so the Koran was so child civilization. Or Tanchi, Galicasi, things, La Majana.
So, if you're a practitioner and there's another person who, let's say, is kind of stirring up, trying to get into arguments with you and stirring up trouble here and there, then the best thing is definitely not to retaliate, not to start arguing back, and to just let it be. If you can, of course, the best thing is to cultivate compassion for them and think that they're just not a practitioner. They can't really help it. But I'm a practitioner, so I have to practice compassion. I have to feel compassion for them. But if you can't do that, then at least you should not fight back and get into an argument with the person, because some people will try to pick up a fight, and so then it depends on the situation. But for example, if you have an opportunity to say that, like, I need to go somewhere else and do something else, then you just find a reason to get away, and you distance yourself, because the person will not always be angry. It's just angry at the moment, and then when you go somewhere else and do something else, then eventually the anger of that person will calm down. And so that's actually generally what is advised in the different scriptures, that one should distance oneself from someone who is very belligerent. And if that's not possible, if one cannot really distance oneself, then one should certainly not fight or argue with them, but speak to them very gently and in a very kind way, and just try to cultivate love and compassion as much as you can. But definitely, you don't want to respond in any harsh or unkind, argumentative way. So even if they act in this way, you don't have to respond in this way. And even if they are unkind, if they speak to you in an offensive way, if you don't respond in a like manner, then eventually they kind of lose steam. Eventually, they will have said all that they can say, and they will just basically get tired of saying things without ever getting a response. Actually, Triten Somgan, he gave a method on how to practice, like really how to practice it in meditation, how to practice compassion with a troublemaker in a kind of in a practice setting. So he mentioned how to practice with body, speech, and mind. And so the body is as usual in your meditative posture. And with the speech, there is something to be accumulated, like a mantra. And so what you accumulate is, I feel compassion for those who harm me. And so Drupon says you just might want to make sure that the one who harms you doesn't hear you accumulate that, because that will make you maybe more angry. But in any case, you accumulate that I feel compassion for the one who harms me. You keep accumulating that without distraction. So that's verbally. And with the mind, you reflect that the one who is harming me also has been my mother in previous lives. And he can't help but harm me because he is afflicted. And as a result of causing harm, it's possible that he will take birth in the lower realms. So if I won't benefit him, then who will? So this is how you can practice with this. And so to meditate on beings as one's mother is a Tibetan method. Maybe it's an Eastern way of reflecting, because there might be some people who don't actually love their mother. And so Triten Somgan says that if you don't love your mother, then you should basically meditate on whoever you do love.
Thank you, Drupon. Drupon, how should I use the Fivefold Path of Mahamudra supplication prayer in my daily life? Should I read it every day? Also, in the prayer, we say, I pray to the Guru. So can we then think of some dear Lama that is near to us, like Rinchen Rinpoche, or do we think like Jigten Sumgun? And can a lama or a master be visualized as a Yidam deity like Jigten Sumgun or Drupon Pachung Rinpoche?
Lama Susu Tepa Karchi, T. Bejad. Lama to the Gomna, Lama Dorjin Changam. The Sosuke, that is Tote, Sosuk. Tepa Chiku, Lama Zavi Lama Suena, T. Zamde, the new Pasura, and exhibits. Yedam Soso Lugumara, the Kargum, the Gumsra. On your man, don't know about it, didn't I in any man a lot of shows.
So the guru here, it could be really any guru that you have a lot of devotion for, and you see the guru in the form of Vajradhara, but in essence it's your root guru. So it's anyone that you have the greatest devotion and trust in. And you visualize yourself as the Yidam deity. And then how you use this application, you can read it every day. So Drupon says, I myself am reading it once a day.
Thank you.
That's how it is. That's how
Okay, Drupon, maybe last question. There's 3 parts to this question. So, Drupon, by recognizing the ignorance of imputation and stopping ourselves from engaging in it, can we eventually remove the ignorance of co-emerging? Secondly, how can we use our understanding of the 2 types of ignorance to deepen our practice of generation and completion stages? And then thirdly, why is the generation stage more significant for the practice to be most effective?
Really? Already. Already, what town of reason to it? Or telling him Maribati, because I could not marry that is the thing also. Since he has some zichi on course on the tattoo Marata magic. Could it want my Yamnachi, didn't it? Neji married the town of reason. Really? 요즘에 그래서는 다 제рем들이 지상하고 말아 조렘 대신에 저한테 말해봐서 봐 리파이션 처리하다 냠나 치고 그러 조렘 이나리 제렘이나 제렘 소마 나시 다 하서는고 그 말해봐서 요 말아리빈 남피마 통 이시통 종류와 심지마 다르큐마 심지마 통 상제통 들을 찬도 그렇게 되는데 말해봐서 빠빠다 안에는 냠나 리파이션 우스 줘서는 말해봐요 말해 뭔가 그거 동서 뭔가 드마지 제도 제와 대로히니 그거 뭔가 나고서 나르면 세로 무슨 냐면시 리바이싱 냐면시디 좀 말해서 야다 제로 그래서 말해
sombatela 데니치당 티는 나네 기름 소렘 니나 사플라게 So regarding the first part of the question, which if you stop the imputing ignorance from engaging in it, can we then remove eventually the co-emergent ignorance? So Drupon says, yes, this is actually how it goes, because the imputing ignorance is the course grasping at a subject-object duality. And when that grasping is stopped, then naturally the more subtle obscurations, which is the co-emergent ignorance to seeing your true nature, those obscurations will also become removed. If you practice, you will not become controlled by dualistic thinking. And that leads to the removal of the co-emergent ignorance. And then the second part of the question, so to use our understanding of these two kinds of ignorance for the practice of generation and completion. So in the generation stage, you visualize the deity. And then in the completion stage, you rest within the state of awareness, a clear intrinsic awareness. And that, in this way, the completion stage clears away ignorance, just naturally. And so first, when you practice the generation stage, the universe and all beings appear as the deity and the mandala of the deity. And also at that point, when everything appears pure in this way, there will be no ignorance. And as you mentioned before, Milarepa had said, so first he actually said, I do not see ordinary consciousness, I only see primordial wisdom. And then I do not see sentient beings, I only see Buddhas. So when the mind becomes completely purified, then this is how it arises, and there is no ignorance in your mind. And Tilopa also says that the light, the darkness that has lasted for 1,000 aeons is dispelled by a single lamp flame. So when you rest for even a moment in intrinsic primordial awareness, then all the ignorance in your mind is cleared away in an instant. And so then lastly, then why is the generation stage more significant? So Drupon says, to me, actually, there's really no difference between generation and completion in terms of being which one is more effective. It just also, people are different. Some people have more tendency to practicing the completion stage. They like to just meditate, resting in the nature of the mind. Not everyone is the same, and that's why there are different practices, but in terms of effectiveness, they are the same.
Then that's hard.
Have you done? And thank you for your questions. And also, Gacho Rinpoche is quite old already, and he's still making the effort to teach us. He's very kind to us, and therefore I really encourage you, Dharma friends, to practice Rinpoche's teachings as much as you can. That's really important. So anyways, I'm happy to answer your questions.
Thank you. To Drupon Rinchen Dorje Rinpoche, we are grateful for your time, patience, and wisdom in answering all of our questions, and to Ina for your clear translations. Continue to please submit questions to registration at garchen.net, and Kempo Tenzin will hold a second question and answer session on the 9th from 2 to 5 p.m. if there's enough questions there. And please join us tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Arizona time, and His Eminence Garchen Rinpoche will continue the teachings on the Fivefold Mahamudra. Thank you very much. Be well and stay safe.
Thank you.